So our couple left the off and on tour guide building and headed back the path that they'd used to approach, and got to the food court with the tower beside it. And they're carrying their clothes, but it was just each one of them had a bag, uh, and they were in their overalls, flannel shirts, caps. Not this kind of cap, ball caps. Hard to hard to find a ball cap that doesn't have a message or something up there. Anyway, they walked along and they ordered their breakfast. Uh, and I don't need to tell you what they ordered, I don't think. And then walked up the steps, or on either side there were those spiral steps. They walked up one of the sets of steps. It was pretty clear that one set was being used to go up and the other set to come down. But people didn't mind if they had to go by each other. It wasn't a bad thing. Anyway, they went up the upstairs and found a table. But before they sat at the table, they went out to the railing and looked at the view, which, was just wonderful. At the Alp across the way, and at the huge water wheel, and a building beside that water wheel too, on its right, that they couldn't quite figure out what that was. They'd ask about that later. And of course, the big hotel, the Lucerne, where their parents were staying, and their hotel way up. What a view, and it was a beautiful day too. Well, anyway, they got at the dumb waiter. They got their food. Actually, there was a waitress that got it and brought it to them. And, they had a number, and they were eating their breakfast, staring into each other's eyes, touching each other with their feet, touching each other as much as they could. I mean, they were really in love. But then as they were eating, here they saw Telly, whom they just met, that tour guide, the young one, the one that was just out of high school. She came up, and she was with a guy, and they did the same thing. They got first they looked at the view, and then they got their food and found a table and sat down, and for a while they just ate like that. But then after a while, Telly came over and said to them, I'm glad to see you chose this as a place to have breakfast. Whenever we can, my boyfriend and I come here when he can get off work at almost any time. We come up here because we just like it so much. We love our town. And she introduced him to Tristan. That was her boyfriend. She said, he's a couple years older than me. I just got out of high school, but he's the downside is he's got a job that he has to drive to still. He's got to drive a pretty long ways to go to his work, and I don't see him sometimes for 4 or 5 days until he has his days off. She explained all this. You don't need to know that really. But anyway, she said, you two, I don't know if you realize yet, but you can go over there to that Alp. You could hike up there if you wanted to, which is fun. It's a little steep, but there's a chairlift right there by your hotel. Just not really meant for skiers necessarily, just a small regular chairlift. And if the weather's nice and you don't mind being out in the air, you can go over and take that chairlift and go up there on that Alp. And she said tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day again, Tuesday, and I recommend, and Bea and I talked this over, and we thought that would probably be a good thing for you to do. And now that we see the way you're dressed and you're kind of like looking out like outside people, outdoorsmen, I think you should do that. And they nodded their heads and they said, well, they'd talk it over, but it sure sounded like a good idea to them. Uh, well, then they went back to eating their meals, finished it up. Heidi and Peter then went down, and instead, I could maybe say, of course, instead of beginning to go back and explore the town, they decided to go back to the hotel to leave their clothes off so they wouldn't be having to carry something. And it shouldn't surprise you that once they went to their hotel and back in their hotel room, they didn't come out right away. Bye for now.